Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, or konnichiwa, as they would say in Japan, because that's where I was yesterday. I can't believe I'm here. From here looking out, it's a little cloudy. Well, I just wanted to say good afternoon and welcome to our October Business and Leaders Luncheon. Last month, we took a broad scope look at the Gresham economic trends and indicators, and today we're going to look a little deeper with more focus into our Rockwood area and discuss how its economic status as an area with persistent poverty impacts East County and how investing in the area can change our regional economy. I would like to say thank you to our presenting sponsors, Aero Sanitary Service, Umpqua Bank, the Boeing Company, and Mount Hood Community College. And thank you to our stakeholder sponsor, Gresham Barlow School District. The Quality Inn is our venue sponsor, and to our media sponsor, MetroEast Community Media. And Keith, as always, takes good care of us and gets us all set up. We are going to be recording the webinar today. It's going to be available through the cable channels for MetroEast Community Media and through the Chamber website. If you would like to take another look at it or share it with someone you know. Also, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our board members in attendance. We have Al Nodarsi over there and Dr. Lisa Scari with Mount Hood Community College. So thank you for coming. And we also have an elected official, Mayor Stan Pulliam of Sandy. Thank you for coming. So today we're going to explore a pressing issue that affects our community. It's the economic disparities in Rockwood. The presentation aims to shed light on the root causes of these disparities, the consequences that they bring, and most importantly, what we can collectively do to alleviate them. The income disparities are stark, and the median household income in Rockwood is less than half of what it is in Portland. And in the past 8 years, this gap has more than doubled. Home to over 40,000 people, Rockwood is part of East Multnomah County, which is known for the gap between the rich and the poor. The heart of our presentation revolves around actionable solutions. We firmly believe that together we can make a difference and bridge economic gaps in Rockwood. Our focus as a chamber is on investing locally, and that needs to include all areas of Gresham. By empowering local businesses, providing access to education and job training, and fostering community initiatives, we can create a more equitable economic landscape and thrive together. We will have time after our speaker has finished his presentation for Q&A from the audience, and I'll come around with a microphone, so please hold your questions until then. And without further ado, please help me welcome Brad Ketch from the Rockwood CDC.
Thank you, Stacy. Isn't it exciting, our new leader for the chamber? We met recently for a couple of hours, and great pick. Yes. Good morning. I feel like I know just about everybody in the room, and I'm thrilled to talk about the challenges of the Rockwood community. We have one member of our staff who's joined us today, and Trin's here too. Sorry, forgot about Ulu Surya. Would you wave? And then Trin Lee, both in our economic development department. So there might be a few of you who want to connect with them. They've got the entrepreneurial endeavors in their work. So what I thought we would do today is I'll just share with you for maybe the first 3 hours. For about 20 minutes, just sort of our standard overview of the Rockwood CDC. I'll go quickly. I know a lot of you have a lot of background information. And then what I really want to do is have a discussion, because we've got some great people in this room who have a lot of opinions, a lot of experience, and I think that it would be productive for us all to have that discussion. But before I do, I just want to talk a little bit about the Rockwood Community Development Corporation. And just to brag, can I brag? Because we've been growing rapidly and expanding all across East County in the last, well, really since COVID. And many of you are interacting with folks from our team, and so we'll just kind of put this all together into one thing. I'm going to not be referring to it much, but we've got a book out. It's available on Amazon called The Flourishing Community. Describes the 10-year journey of the organization and what it means to do community development. And it's sort of the roadmap of what we've done, and we would be excited if you read it and interacted with us. So the Community Development Corporation of Oregon is actually our legal name. It's the 501c3. We haven't used it much over the years. We got launched as the Rockwood CDC. I'm going to be sharing with you probably about 9 different brand names, and you'll be going, what? It's all one thing. It's all one organization. We did it because our view of community development, when you're working in a community that where we are holistic, we're operating in many different areas, but different folks in a community like Rockwood might be more comfortable with a smaller feel than a big organization. So to our communities, we kind of look small on purpose and accessible and very on brand for what we're working on. But then we can roll it up to the big name because at the federal level or major philanthropies or at the state level, they want to understand that we've got the heft to deal with large initiatives. And so that's kind of what that's all about. The organization is now, if we hired every single person that we have an open position for, we'd be at 50. Many of you in this room remember when we were like at 2. So there's been a lot of change. The organization is 2/3 Black, Indigenous, and people of color at the board and the management levels. So the power structure for the organization is minority white, majority BIPOC, because the community is majority BIPOC. And we are, this year, a $7 million budget, which I think makes us the largest nonprofit in the East Metro area, and growing rapidly. So I think this sort of tiger by the tail that we've all got right now is going to continue, is our view. Our dream, this is our vision statement, our dream of East Metro, well, it says Rockwood, but that's kind of expanding these days to all of East Metro, is a place with rising levels of prosperity where employment and decent housing are accessible to all, where health outcomes are excellent, where vibrant community life emerges from diversity, and where all show compassion to those who are in need. You know, the Rockwood, you're very familiar with, 90 languages, 88 languages spoken at home, about 40,000 people, as Stacy indicated, and about a 10 to 15 year lifespan difference between Rockwood and downtown Portland. Isn't that interesting? I think it's just stunning that the systemic failures are so great. This is how we think about it, that for that result to occur, what would have to occur in the way our systems and our community is designed? Well, it's not one answer. There's no one entity to blame. It's multiple failures across multiple systems over a long period of time. And so our approach is, if it's a systemic failure, then it's a systemic solution. And so although we are a service provider now in a lot of areas, our core is working with the leaders, just the people in this room and a few others, on systemic change. We've engaged directly in the last 12 months with 70,000 people in East Metro area. And I don't just mean that we said hi at an event. I mean, we actually delivered services or worked on group efforts or had them accessing our shelter for for people who are experiencing homelessness. And the idea is that all of our groups work together. I'll come back to each in some detail, but the major ones are the East County Business Bridge, I referred to before, East County Community Health, East County Housing, the Rockwood CDC, the Rockwood Food System Collaborative, and Rockwood English Language Institute. The big news for us has been in launching East County Housing was a mega gift from Oregon Community Foundation, almost $7 million grant in Project Turnkey 1.0, we use that money to acquire a hotel. It's not on our website because a lot of the residents are people who kind of don't want to be found. So it's a lot of domestic violence people and so forth. So you won't see this on the website, but many of you know where it is located on 181st, just south of the Banfield exit. There's a McDonald's there on the west side, and this is the hotel that's right behind it. It's a 75-room, 4-story hotel that is currently functioning now as a low-barrier transitional housing shelter for houseless families and individuals. The goal is to provide some stable temporary housing, get people off the street, and then get them into permanent housing. And the model is Multnomah County's rapid rehousing model. I know there's a lot of controversy about that model. We are kind of model agnostic. I used to be the chair of the board of my father's house, which is the exact opposite model. Very high barrier. This is very low barrier. I think the results are about identical in terms of the statistics. But Multnomah County pays for a lot of the operating dollars for this. Their model is rapid rehousing, so that's our model. A client arrives from a referral, and the city of Gresham has been a referral source. 211, many of the nonprofits, local nonprofits, they will refer them into the facility if we have space. There's an assessment that's done. Every single person that's received gets 3 hot meals a day, culturally specific meals that are catered in, place to sleep, and 4 to 6 months. There's no firm cutoff date. 4 to 6 months to kind of, first rest and then get an assessment by a housing coordinator that is on our team. I'm going to just go quickly through some of the partners that are involved with us, but before I do that, the model's working. So it's been 2 years, and we've had about 2,700 people housed. 265 families have been placed into permanent housing, and over 300,000 meals served. So that 265 is a significant number of families, and this model is actually more efficient than any other model that Multnomah County has. Hold on one second. No, I didn't. All right. I want to do a shout out to the partners. So the reason this is working so well is 25 partner agencies are all working together to provide services, wraparound services for the families at the shelter. And some of the major ones include, obviously, the Reynolds School District. They've got a school bus that pulls up and all the kids jump on and they go to school. The district loves them, welcomes them. I think sometimes there's been a little bit of misinformation that we don't want a concentration of houseless kids because it'll overwhelm the school districts. It's actually the exact opposite. The way they're funded is they get the same amount of dollars per kid from the state education fund plus a boost if that child is homeless, and it's a significant boost. It's actually in the best financial interest of a district to have homeless kids if you want to put it in stark dollars and cents terms. But that's the direct answer to the challenge that people have given us that the school districts can't handle the service. No, they're paid to handle the service, and they're paid well. So the district, YMCA has said, hey, you guys have a pool. Why don't we start teaching drowning prevention? And the Multnomah County Library, Key Bank came across the street and said, well, let's make sure everybody's banked and so forth. So it's just been a giant effort by a lot of folks. There is one nonprofit I want to shout out to because they're our major provider, and that's, Thank you, Ulu. They're a African-American-led nonprofit headquartered in Fairview, so you might not know that. It's actually a local success story of Greater New Hope Family Services, now a huge regional provider of wraparound services for houseless people.
What was the name? Sorry, we didn't hear.
Greater New Hope Family Services. Okay, that was kind of the quick drive-by on the housing. The Rockwood CDC is the name I think everybody knows. Now, I want to explain our really interesting logo. This was just developed a couple of years ago. You know, it's got all the colors that sort of represents the great diversity in the community. You also might notice that no two shapes are the same because there are no solutions in our community that are one size fits all. But the third feature is that the R is in the negative, it's in the background. Because to see Rockwood, you have to look for Rockwood. It's otherwise invisible to people in Gresham, in East Metro, and across the Portland area. Still the number one question I get after 10 years. Where's Rockwood? You knew what that question was going to be. So unless you're looking for it, our 40,000 people who are experiencing great harm from the failure of our systems, they are invisible. Now let's talk about those folks a little bit. I didn't really bring a lot of statistics, but after all these years I can kind of rattle them off. You know, we have the worst educational attainment in the state, in Rockwood. It's to the point now where the number of third graders at Alder Elementary or some of the other elementaries, third graders who are reading at the third grade level, has dropped below the minimum threshold for reporting. In other words, it's about none. It would be less than 3%. So let's just think about where what community we're giving birth to for the next generation. What are, you know, that we're handing off 20 years from now. Kids who are illiterate don't stand a chance. Rockwood's also a place where we have, of 18 major community health indicators of general health, Rockwood is the worst in 16 of those across the entire state. We have the lowest levels of educational attainment. We have the lowest levels of employment, obviously lowest levels of income, of English language proficiency. We have the most concentration of formerly incarcerated people in the entire state are in that region. The highest concentration of single moms raising families is in Rockwood. Really, it just kind of goes on and on. If there's a measure of the vulnerability of people, the social vulnerability kind of index, I promise you where you'll find Rockwood. It'll be the top spot across the entire state. East County Business Bridge is another program that connects entrepreneurs to mentors, money, and markets. It was a $1 million 2-year grant by the U.S. Small Business Administration that we hope to get renewed in 2024. We haven't heard yet. But we have 150 entrepreneurs in the program right now, and there's another 150 in a similar program that is starting to kind of get to know us a little bit better. So there's at least 300 small entrepreneurs in Rockwood. They are not connected to the chamber. We'd love for them to be connected to the chamber. And all BIPOC entrepreneurs. It's really very exciting. It's a whole lot of fun to be working with folks who are hungry for success. Also hungry is the Rockwood Food System Collaborative. This is a group of about 90 folks who are all working together to create a more robust food system in Rockwood and really now East Multnomah County. We recently were awarded a grant from the USDA to finally buy a farm that we've been leasing for years. And so we'll have 19 acres in Boring. And part of that grant is to work out a transfer strategy so that ultimately the farmers will own the land without having to pay for it, but in exchange for the work that they're putting in over the next few years. So it's actually a wealth building strategy that we're excited about, and we're talking to the USDA about expanding pretty dramatically. Rockwood Knocks, Rockwood Speaks, and Rockwood Listens are different programs for facilitating formal community conversations. I think today we've probably engaged 5,000 adults in East Multnomah County, East Metro, in formal facilitated conversations about what to do in this community. City of Gresham has employed us in the past to have those conversations on different topics, and different organizations continue to do the same thing. So we've taken all of the information into something called the Rockwood Identity Atlas, and you can download that from our website. It's just all of the quantitative and qualitative data that we've collected through the years put together into one cohesive package. And that's offered for free to everybody, because we believe that if we all understand the community the same way, then the solutions will start to appear too. One of the big needs of the community, of course, is access to funding. So we have two programs. One is Oregon Community Capital, which does equity investments, and then Oregon Capital Access Network, similar name, that does microloans. So we're giving out microloans right now. And then in East County Community Health, and this is the last thing I'll just touch on, is working on a fancy term, a technical term called social determinants of health. I would imagine some of you have never heard of that, some of you have. It's basically the idea that your zip code is a determinant of your ultimate health. And what's interesting is about 90% of the spending in healthcare is for clinical services, 10% for the overall environment. But 90% of the reason why people die young is environmental, and 10% is access to clinical care. So the whole idea is let's continue to invest in communities that work for the health of its residents. And the U.S. Center for Disease Control gave us a grant last year to launch a program called the Closing the Gap. And they called it an accelerator plan. I'm not sure what that even is, but we think that they'll be funding some neat innovations that we're working on. Mount Hood Community College is a partner in the accelerator plan, as well as Multnomah County Public Health, Oregon Health Authority, and Trillium and HealthShare of Oregon. And Care Oregon Advantage. Some of the partners, Outgrowing Hunger, the city, YMCA, Black Parent Initiative, Our Just Future, and Providence Community Health. 5 things that the Center for Disease Control says that if we can fix these, then people's overall health will rise. Built environment, community clinical linkages, social connectedness, tobacco-free policy, and food and nutrition. And for this project, we've picked 3 of them: community clinical linkages, food and nutrition security, and social connectedness. We're proposing with our partners a long list of things that can be funded in those areas. And we'll be finding out, I think, yet this year whether the CDC is going to come in for that kind of funding. One last comment, and then I really do just want for us to talk together about issues in Rockwood. And that is, we've learned a lot over the last 10 years about wiring together a nonprofit. We've learned a lot about poverty. By no means is anybody expert, especially us. But other nonprofits now have reached out to kind of try to learn how to get on this growth trajectory that we've been on and how to have impact. So we've created a conference, and you're hearing about it today for the first time. It'll be in May of next year, and it's called Flourishing Oregon. It'll be at Hyatt Regency Convention Center. Why don't you go ahead, please, and kill the screen, whoever's got that. In other words, I'm done. So at the Hyatt Regency Convention Center, we're going to be inviting community-based organizations from all over the state to come and learn for a couple of days. We are hoping for about 600, maybe from 500 organizations, with the idea being that we can kind of elevate the role of community-based organizations in their own communities. So you'll be hearing a lot more about that. We're looking for sponsors, of course. We're looking for people who will chair panels. We're looking for everything. First time we've done this, and we're excited about it. Well, that was a quick drive-by. I just wanted to update everybody on sort of where we're at as an organization, and you've heard a little bit about where the community is at. So let's just pause here and start with reactions, questions, dissent. It's all fine.
Hey, Brad, thanks, first of all, for all that you and Lynn have done, because it's just amazing when you see all these resources, but I know you guys have been a huge part of it, so thank you
Thank
for
you.
stepping up there. You know, one of the things, I got a lot of notes here on my phone here from your conversation, but I was just thinking as a businessman, I kind of want to ask, you know, so you have 2,700 houses, you said, but 265 in permanent housing, and you said that's a lot better than what Multnomah County typically does. So can you give us a couple of nuggets on why it's working better with what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're kind of trying to figure that out ourselves. Why is what we're doing working so much better? Because we don't think that we are any better at providing wraparound services than anybody else. But I think to be quite candid, one of the secret sauces is very stable funding from Multnomah County. When's the last time anybody ever said they got stable funding from Multnomah County? You know, the travails of the Joint Office of Homeless Services have been in the news. I think we're all aware of the real huge breakdown, but they have managed to be persistent, consistent funders of ours every month for 2 years now, and that's given us the staff stability to not be chasing dollars every day and actually delivering services. We've had no turnover in staff. We're paying well, and I think that's a big part of it. Ulu is now managing that program, so.
What I would add to what Brad said.
Oh, I think you need the mic, so that.
Does she?
Well, for the broadcast. Yeah.
What I would add to what Brad said in regards to what's working, it really is the supportive housing services. So what Brad's saying, being able to staff enough people to give supportive housing services where you are able to teach people, guide them through things like financial literacy, just how to rent well, getting them set up so they're not behind the 8 ball when they get into housing. So taking care of some credit recovery and helping to just get them stable enough so that they're starting well and they're not behind trying to catch up. So it's the supportive housing services that have really made a difference.
Great. And naturally, one of the challenges is finding apartments. People want to stay in this. They're from East County. They want to stay in East County, but we don't have a high enough inventory of affordable housing. So in some cases, they're staying at the hotel. Like there's literally no place for them to go. And in other cases, they're moving out of the area and breaking up whatever sort of relational things they had going on with their families in the first place. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Amazing work. And yet, the stable money is a big deal, because I know that nonprofits spend half their time often looking to keep money and find money. But if you had to pick a part of your team that you would point at and say, here's where we've been very powerfully successful, is there a place where, I mean, you're going to be doing this, you're inviting people next year to sit and talk with you. They're going to say, how are you doing this that we can learn from? Maybe answer that question like you would be speaking to one of the non-for-profits.
Wow, what a great question. Thank you. So there is one secret sauce that we are now sharing with others, and that is that our area has a lot of tiny nonprofits that are community-based organizations, typically culturally specific, or a faith community, a local church. But any sort of organized, we don't have enough organized structure in East County of small, especially culturally specific groups, and so we've been nurturing a relationship with them. For years, we ran the Sunrise Center, where many of them were tenants. But we lost the Sunrise Center, and so that kind of dispersed. But during COVID, the idea was that we were getting, do you remember 480 boxes a week? Yeah, for 500, something like that, of the the food boxes that the USDA put together. And we thought, we are not going to have a line of cars all the way down Burnside of people coming to get, because that'll mess everything up. we're going to find each of these groups and give them an allocation. And on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. to noon, they show up in their trucks, they get their allocation, and then they go out into the apartment complexes where people who are part of their affinity group live. And what it did two things. One, it was super efficient, and second, it actually strengthened the relationship between that small nonprofit and the people they serve, as opposed to strengthening the direct relationship with us. And it was so cool as time went on, the Muhammad, who picks up for the Muslim community, started to develop a great relationship with Ricardo, who was picking up for Latino populations up in like the Fairview area. And eventually Muhammad goes, you know, we can't take any of these meats. And Muhammad's like, oh, our folks will take all the meat, you know? So they began like this intercultural relationship that continues to this day. So with about 13 of these small community-based organizations in this hub and spoke type relationship, when the U.S. Small Business Administration gave us the $1 million grant to get services into hard-to-reach populations, we were like, oh, we know how to do this. Let's just use the hub and spoke relationship that we've already established. And guess what? It worked. It worked really well. Now, we actually pay these organizations capacity building funding every month for 2 years so that they have the staff to then in turn serve their folks. We've taken that hub and spoke concept, and we're working with Health Share of Oregon right now as big changes start to come through in Medicaid, and a whole lot more money will be coming from Medicaid to Oregon's lowest income residents in the future. They really want to do it through a hub and spoke type relationships where there's a large intermediary nonprofit that in turn shoulders the load for all of the brain damaging forms and budgeting and governance and legal stuff, and keeping that load off of the folks whose main concern is people in their affinity group. Yeah, so we're a big believer in kind of that hub and spoke kind of a thing, and that's our growth target for sure. Is that it?
I've got another question.
Yes, sir.
I don't need a mic.
Well,
For the broadcast.
Oh, they're recording.
Yes, thank you.
I was just going to joke. My wife would be the first to tell I don't need a microphone. No, my question was about the conference here. So is it open to, is this as Oregon-centric or Northwest-centric, or are there people from all over the country coming to this? I'm just kind of curious.
well, there are already people just on word of mouth that are saying they're coming, but it's for Oregon, and it's really specifically, don't tell anybody, but we're not going to market to Portland nonprofits. I think this is about, Portland's just its own world, as we all know, including funding. Nonprofits have a totally different funding picture frequently. So this is going to be for the folks in the metro region, and then statewide, we're marketing it statewide.
Wow, and it was interesting because I feel one of your answers to my question earlier was the fact, because when you look at the nonprofit world, you always see these silos, if you will, and they don't work together. Yeah. And you guys have embraced outsourcing that, and I think that's one of the reasons you've been able to scale at such a large capacity.
Really insightful, Al. 100%. That's why we're being sought out by major philanthropies, the federal government, state governments, because we're nurturing this network that isn't just a collaborative. It's actually money. It's dough that's flowing, and in turn, we're finding the small community-based organizations that really are in authentic relationship versus those that kind of talk about it. And so the ones who are really in authentic relationships with maybe a couple hundred people or more, that's the future. That's the future. And the big money knows that, and they're trying to find them.
Wow, that's a beautiful story.
Yes, back here.
Hi, my name is Sandra, and I own Flavors of India. We are a business at Rockwood Market Hall, And my question to you is, can you come and can I invite you to speak to the business owners of Rockwood Market Hall? Because I think we would be interested in figuring out a way of how we could give back to you or give to our communities through your inclusion or your participation. Because the goal of our business, Flavors of India, if you turn over the back of our menu, we already have 3 charities that we try to help out, and we're trying to add more. And that's the goal, is to help out some more in Rockwood. We do through our community meals when we are asked of that at Rockwood Market Hall, but it's not cut forth and dry. It's not an easy, attainable. Yeah. You know, the hoops and stuff that we have to go through. But what can we do to make that process better when we hand out the community meals to Reach or to Play, Grow, Learn, which was on your slideshow there, and working with Anthony? It's been a real issue and a battle trying to figure out how to leverage our businesses. Gosh, we are blessed to be there. I mean, Rockwood Market Hall, I couldn't wait to get in there. It was like a 3 or 4 year wait. I went through a lot of hoops and a lot of things to, just lots of different hoops to get in there. But I love Rockwood. In another life, I taught Sunday school at Greater Portland Baptist Church, and I visited those kids every Saturday afternoon. I had 40 kids in my kindergarten class, and I totally understand the economic issues that are there, and the apartments that we went to, they are worse than being in some places in India, to believe, just to let you know, y'all know that. So it is truly a serious matter there. We've had kids steal our tip jars, etc., but we've had moms that care about their kids and had them bring the tip jar back with the money and made them apologize. But you know what? That is the other thing there in Rockwood. It has a stigma that everybody's always stealing and your car's going to get ripped off. We don't get customers that come to Rockwood Market Hall. They all order out, or they have somebody come pick it up because of that stigma. So how can we work together to make that change and to be of help to our community? So I'm just going to ask you that.
Boy,
thank you.
What a great question. I want to I hope you heard implicit in the question a story of hope for a distressed community. You know, our entrepreneurs are not setting world records for growth. Probably 80% are really hobbyists who very unlikely they're going to create a successful business. We're an incubator like any other place. Maybe about 10% are going to muddle through, 10% are going to succeed wildly. But success at your level has tremendous benefit to the community. For every one of you, there's an uplift. There's, and I, you know, you're from the community. You're not a transplant. And already you're talking about what's my strategy to give back. And boy, does that not surprise me, because I think everybody in our entrepreneurial program would say the same thing, 100%. So I wish I had a silver bullet. I feel like in all of this poverty work, there is no silver bullet. I think there's silver shot. I think you could do a lot of different things that do work. We talked about a couple of things that work. Not everything we do works, but we do know, you know, I think the industry knows some things. But in entrepreneurial development, what we really want to see happen, and we're out with big grant requests right now, is we want to see a more formal support structure in Rockwood. I see your head nodding. 100% agree. Yeah. And there are amazing resources. Small Business Development Center, WorkSource Oregon is right in the Market Hall. We're right across the street now. Our new offices are on Burnside and 184th. The sign, I'm told, is going up next week. So that's been a while. Yeah, we're hoping to build a workforce development center and an entrepreneurial center, getting some nibbles from folks that have extra zeros in their checkbook. More to say about that. Ulu, what thoughts do you have about the question?
It's okay. Get my steps in.
So I am the director of East County Business Bridge, and we're helping those entrepreneurs. And as Brad said, I think right now we have over 160 people enrolled in the program, and majority are BIPOC, women-owned businesses. And what I see is that a lot of people want to be a part of the community and want to make the community better. And I'm a huge proponent of shop and eat local. Lynn, Brad's wife, I'm like, were you at Red Lobster or KFC? You need to go to a local restaurant. No, but so I think it really is, how can people in this room help? It is to go to Rockwood Market Hall and eat and invite friends to go there and be a part and see that your car doesn't get broken into, or that it is it's a welcoming place to be in Rockwood. I think people, it's very easy. I live in Gresham, and I always tell people I live in 2 different Greshams because I work in Rockwood and I'm there all day, every day, and then the rest of the things I do is on the other side of Gresham. And it's very easy to never, ever, ever enter Rockwood. And then you don't see the individuals, the people, the stories. It is so rich. And from a business perspective, I think we miss out on, wow, it's so culturally diverse. So many, the culture, the arts, music, food that we're missing out that would just benefit Gresham as a whole, if on a business sense, if we embrace that and really celebrated the differences rather than skirting around.
Thank you, Ulu. There was a question back there, or 2.
So I hear you talking about really the benefits, right, of doing the hub and spoke model, where you can do some of that heavy lifting paperwork and then let those who are in those more intimate relationships have the resources they need to provide to that community. What I'm kind of curious about, though, is what are the unique challenges that you've seen from using that model that perhaps we as, investors in the community can help you navigate or make adjustments for?
Thank you. What a great question. We have seen that some organizations really aren't in relationship with as many people as they say they are. Sometimes, especially, I'll just go there, a Portland organization that's big there and they want to kind of put an outpost out here. They're not actually in relationship. They're just, I mean, they may, if they stick with it for long enough, like 10 years, but we have to weed those organizations out of the hub and spoke. And then the second is that there are sometimes groups that are just not even ready to be a spoke. And it may be a language barrier that we can't overcome, although I think we speak about 18 languages on staff. But it might be, sometimes it's even as basic as from their home culture, the concept of being a micro-entrepreneur is a different concept, or the idea of a nonprofit is a different idea. And when we're kind of like, no, here's all you do, you just fill out this form and we're going to pay you, and it's real straight and simple, it isn't simple from their framework. So we've had a couple of misfires where we're like, we're going to move on, you do you. But in general, I would say maybe that we're talking about 2 or 3. The rest have really benefited. We do coaching and mentoring as asked. Hold them accountable for results, because we're aggregating those results and we want to make sure it's true what we're telling folks. But in general, they're hungry to learn, and that's really a joy. to help bring along smaller CBOs. I think there was a question over here.
Hi, my name is this working? My name is Sandra Boggs, and I actually live over there off of 182nd. I live in Rockwood. And I have a suggestion. I also have a complaint. I mean, I moved here from Montana, white bread, Montana. I ended up in Rockwood. I like Rockwood. I love Gresham. I don't even know how to say the name. I love Gresham. And I look at Rockwood and I see everything that's going in with the market hall and stuff. And I'm like, why can't we just make this a destination for people coming to Portland? Like, this is the place to come to get a taste of the international influence within Portland. There's some work we need to do before that happens, but I would really like to see that happen. I am being exposed to things I was never exposed to in Montana, and I am loving it. And I got really mad when I pulled into the parking lot here and saw that the lot was not full. I was mad. I want to know where the other Gresham Chamber members are and why we're not actually doing something to help Rockwood. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. So we do have a grant request into the USDA right now for the dough that it would take to create a regional food hub. And the difference between like a little farmer's market thing and small scale production of food and selling it, between that, which is where we're at today, and a regional food hub, is lots of land, lots of produce, a warehouse, trucks, aggregation, and joint marketing. So 100% there's an untold story of the incredible cultural bounty that's global, that's in Rockwood. And no, it's not always packaged for prime time. It may not be ready yet for the whole world to discover it, but with the proper coaching and mentoring and access to capital, every one of those entrepreneurs want to get there and can get there. I mean, cultural food and cultural clothing, it has tremendous value in our economy, and it commands a price premium. And so I think it's a reasonable path for a lot of the folks in Rockwood.
Brad, thank you. Great presentation. Stan Pulliam. Just coming off of that statement, one thing I want to say is I don't know if you guys have linked in with Greater Portland Inc. at all. They're kind of embarking on retelling Portland's story and kind of a rebrand of Portland, both locally and internationally. Might be interesting to kind of link in with that on Rockwood's story as part of that. I don't have a question as much as just kind of affirming of what you're talking about. In Sandy, we have several groups of nonprofits. I've had an opportunity to travel the state and meet with different people. And what I found is at the local level, people have gotten into this because they've identified a problem, right? And whether it was through their own experience or through a relative, family member, coworker, and then they've jumped into it. And the bureaucracy of getting into the larger nonprofit world and trying to get those resources to come down to government agencies can be really daunting. A lot of individuals don't know how to navigate that, and yet so they turn to local community. And local community is great, but it's hard to really take that at scale and to do it on a consistent basis. So again, not really a question as much as really affirming what you're talking about. I think it could be a huge resource to a lot of these local communities, especially more rural type communities like Sandy, and I think it's great. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor Pulliam. I think that there's an opportunity for East Metro to get its act together. And it's on us right now in a positive way. I'm not denigrating or chastising anybody. Lately, we've been on a roll. Major new businesses have come in. Our organization all of a sudden is pulling down funding from the federal level or the major philanthropy level, but we're not the only ones. There are other major nonprofits. And hey, we have the 4th best community college in the nation with Mount Hood Community College, which is also growing. And so we have real assets here and the attention of national level people. Are we good for it as a community to pull together the leadership? And we're we're trying to think through ways that we can, it's not that there is no conversation, there are lots of different conversations going on. How do we kind of pull it together into a larger conversation about properly utilizing all the new resources that are starting to come into the East Metro area? And no, I don't have any more answers than that.
I just wanted to comment on a few of the things that were said and given idea with a story that happened for me just across the river. I'm on the Gresham board. This is not about me, but I just wanted to say that I live across the river, but I'm part of that here, so I get to see all the great work. Hector Hinojosa, who's a community activist over, you might know him, over in Vancouver area, had a thing called Stone Soup. And I learned about it years ago before COVID, and the story is that it's for the homeless. He basically serves a meal every weekend. And my son, who had never been around homeless people, came with me once, because I'd done it twice. And we left that experience, and he looked at me, and he said, I was almost in tears when he said it, because I grew up in San Francisco, which has a very different culture. He's grown up in the suburbs. So this might give you a kind of an example of how people feel about Rockwood. But he said to me, he said, Dad, there's just people. And he suddenly, like, this fear of someone being homeless had dropped away from him. So whatever way you can invite people to be together and to see the community of Rockwood is my point, I guess. And so I heard the idea of getting people to come in and shop, and whatever it is, that will demystify it, because the more you understand something, the more you can love it.
You're right. It's the idea of proximity. When the proximity between us and our low-income neighbors is far, well, we sort of have the luxury of thinking whatever we really want to think, or what we saw on Fox News or what we saw on CNN. And we have frameworks, and it's all turned into partisan issues. But none of that matters when the proximity has shrunk to just you sitting across a coffee table with somebody who's living in a distressed world. Because if you're not in those regular relationships, you forget. And then all of this dysfunction that we've got at the system level, to us, we experience that dysfunction as annoyance and irritation. The poor experience that dysfunction as harm. And so when you shrink across the table and you're seeing that person for who they actually are, all those frameworks don't necessarily matter. And that's what we've been trying to do. The program that Al runs is trying to do that. There are a number of efforts. Yep.
So Brad, I was on the Redevelopment Commission when you came and petitioned, and it's great seeing what you and Lynn have done, and we've been, partners and walking along and seeing what you guys have done. It's been amazing. And I love the Black Cat Cantina and the stuff that you guys did when you were there, and I love the idea of starting the micro businesses and helping people follow their dreams and stuff. But as a guy that had hair 23 years ago when I started the business, I remember sitting down small business development leaders and stuff, and they said, "Are you really sure you want to do this?" Mm-hmm. I remember them trying to tell me how hard it was going to be. And I was young and dumb, so I just kept doing it and just didn't sleep and worked 2 jobs and 5 jobs and so on and so forth. And here we are 23 years later with 200 people and stuff. But the road to that success is tough. It's a hard road. And you just said it a few minutes ago, many don't make it. But for those of us that have made it and made some great strides over the years, we're looking for people. I'm right now paying $47,000 for an entry-level person to come in and work alongside of us, and I could hire 30 today. I want to know, are there ways for you guys to help businesses like myself and others build those relationships with these small nonprofits, whatever? 54% of our organization is minority. we love
Yeah.
the diversity of our team and what we're doing. I mean, a family of two willing to work full time, we're paying $95,000 a year starting wage between the two. And that's going to lift that community, and they'll be able to go to those ones that are really struggling trying to start their business, and they'll be able to actually pay for a meal.
Yeah.
And buy the clothes and do those things. So I'm just, like I said, I spend over $100,000 a year just trying to find people. And if there's connections that we can make within the organizations that you guys have, I would love to know about those, because like I said, I can hire 30 people today. I will be sizing all of you for uniforms at the door.
A quick comment about employment. Probably in any given population, the real entrepreneurs are maybe 15% of the people. And a lot of the folks in our network, what their big outcome is, I'm not ever going to be a successful business person. I need to go find a good job. And that's a good outcome for the broader picture of what we're trying to accomplish. But our area here is uniquely messed up around the mismatch between unemployment rate and the skill sets. So much so that the U.S. Economic Development Agency, the EDA, recently came out with a grant program where they identified those census tracts in the U.S. that are persistent poverty. There are multiple connected to each other, so there's an area. The adults who are between the age of 25 and 54, their unemployment rate is more than 10 whole percentage points above the national average. Does that make sense? In other words, if we're at 4%, then 14% for working adults 25 to 54 in the prime of their life. And one other criteria. Anyway, they ran all their numbers, and in all of Oregon, the only qualifying set of census tracts, guess where? And so the EDA actually reached out to us to make sure that we knew that this competitive bidding process was happening. And we don't know yet, but we swung for the fences and we said, because they have an awful lot of money, we want to create a workforce development focus area in Rockwood. And that'll have to be all forms of education, working tightly with employers that can't find enough workers. I believe, if I remember right from an economic presentation, maybe they did this last month, like Rockwood or Gresham has the highest concentration of people who commute out of the area for jobs in the whole metro area. And conversely, an awful lot of people commute in. It seems like there's I don't know what's going on, but I know that Microchip is trying to have a massive expansion if they get some of that sweet CHIPS Act dollars. You guys are expanding. I hear it all the time. But to get folks ready, there has to be an intermediary set of education. A lot of times it's English language, orientation about how to be a good employee in the U.S., filling out all the forms that even a white guy who was born here I get confused by, just for employment. So we are trying to find that funding.
We have time for one more question.
This is kind of a follow-up question to my original one. You talked about how some of the smaller nonprofits that you've attempted to incorporate into your hub and spoke program weren't really ready for it. So what are some of the hallmarks that you guys look for when it's a good time to engage them and build that collaborative relationship?
I feel like you guys are reading our internal emails. We have been discussing that as a staff. And finding out that few, if any, nonprofits in the entire nation are doing what we're doing at this level. I keep thinking, oh no, there must be some, it's all being done somewhere else. I just need to copy, the best practices. But no, it seems to be innovative. So we're working it out. We're trying a voting system right now, anonymous voting within staff to rate partner agencies so that they can have an independent, anonymous rating that hopefully gets some of the cultural bias out. And I mean, it's really profound that what might look to us as a partner agency, a spoke, failing, when their culture looks back at the team that are failing and say, wow, there's hope. It's actually a success. And so interpreting what is successful, what isn't, is, I don't know, it's an art. I don't think there's much science about it.
What I would add to that is, especially in Rockwood, we're all in relationship. And like any family, the dynamics of those relationships are different with the different members of the family. So in my program, there were some people that joined, and we just find a different way to have a relationship with them. And at the same time, because we're in a relationship, we can have hard conversations about this is, like, if you really want to take your organization to the next level, these are things that need to happen. And that's the same thing that happens with the entrepreneurs. It's a self-actualization. Like, we don't tell them you can't start a business. We just say, this is what's gonna happen. We walk beside them, but in the relationship, they're more open to hear rather than the system, you know, having external excuses. I'd rather be an employee and get paid $45,000 a year rather than $47,000 a year, rather than, you know, the struggle, because, and the part of that is internships, right? So someone will say, I want to start a food cart, until they go with someone to a food cart and have to get up and get everything prepped and then work and then clean up, and it's like, I don't think I want to do that. That 47 sounds wonderful with benefits. And it's just not crushing people's dreams, but giving them the opportunity to experience different things, and they come to that realization themselves that this is what's better for my family and what's better for me.
Great. I think we're at time. Well, thank you for having us today. We're honored.
Well, that was a lot of fantastic information, and I really appreciate everybody's thoughtful questions and comments. This was I think we probably could actually have stayed here for 3 hours, as he mentioned. I'm really excited, Brad, about the workforce development program that you're talking about. I think the Gresham Area Chamber of Commerce would really appreciate becoming a partner, because the resources of skills and knowledge that we have with our members is vast, and we really do believe in supporting locals. So looking forward to hearing more about that and hopefully being able to help.
Well, if anybody here has an in with the EDA, hit them up.
Okay. So I'd like to talk next month, our topic, in case it's on the table, but we do have a very exciting project happening in Gresham if you aren't aware of it. But our former Pony Soldier is going through an exciting renovation. It's being converted into low-cost to no-cost housing for local college students. So please register for the presentation. It's going to be on November 14th, same place, same time. We're going to have Ryan Sturley, who is the Director of Real Estate and Development with College Housing Northwest, doing the presentation. I had the opportunity of taking a walk through. It's fabulous. I saw some renderings. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be, I think, a great return on investment for our community. And again, would like to thank our sponsors, Aero Sanitary Service, Umpqua Bank, the Boeing Company, and Mount Hood Community College, the Gresham Barlow School District, the Quality Inn, and MetroEast Community Media. And a special thank you to Sandra, who is the owner of Flavors of India, for that fabulous lunch. located in the Rockwood Market Hall. I encourage you to go. It is a beautiful building with a lot of really great things to try. And if you didn't try the Mango Lassie, it is my favorite. And if you did just sign up for beverage, that is included. It is delicious, so please help yourselves. And if you can figure out how to take a plate without it spilling in your car, there's leftovers, so help yourselves. And I want to thank you again, everybody, for coming. This was wonderful, and have a great week.